Welcome to Audible Sportscast, your home for all things sports. Welcome back, everybody. Week 3's done. It's Brett and Jeff here. How you doing, Brett?
Good. How are you?
I am doing good. I am refreshed. Bears are 2-1 when everyone thought they were gonna go 0-17. I am excited. I don't care how they won. Maybe we'll talk about it a little bit later. But for now, Bears are doing good. There's a lot of fun football to watch. We're going to talk about a whole slate of games that are coming up this week. Some really good primetime games. Finally, these primetime games I feel like have been horrible lately. Well, not horrible, but like could be better. You know, a lot of kind of defensive games we'll talk about here in a little bit. And our first game overseas. Excited to get into it. So let's just get right into it. Start with the fantasy of the week, the starts and sits. Last week, Brett, you thought Jameis Winston was going to be a good sit.
I did.
He ended up having 14.6 points. So I mean, definitely depending on who was on your bench, that could be a reasonable start, I'd suggest. But you also said to start Aaron Jones. He only had 5 points, PPR value.
Yeah, I just assumed it.
Yeah, you did, and hey, that's fun in the game. We don't know what we're talking about, to be fair. No one knows what they're talking about, except, the people on the field or the coaches. So take our advice with a grain of salt. We think we know what we're talking about, but hey, I think we do, for the most part. But last week, I also had Clyde Edwards-Helaire as a sit. He had a decent game, similar to kind of Jameis Winston in points. But I also said to start Leonard Fournette, who ended up putting up a little less points. So take it as you is. But Brett, this week, what do you got for me?
I think you stay away from most Buccaneers, and then I think you sit Cameron Brate if you got him starting.
Okay.
I don't know. Right now, that offense is pretty bleh. So
with Mike Evans coming back and potentially Chris Godwin, you still feel you just shouldn't start anybody on that Buccaneers team?
Maybe. I mean, you start Mike Evans, but I don't even think you start Brady at this point. He's got to prove himself as a fantasy person again.
Okay, that's fair. You think he's too old, too rusty? We don't have the same.
No, I just think I think that team needs to re-gel itself. They might be 2-1, but.
It is. They are going.
When you only scored 26 points between Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady in a game.
To be fair, though, those defenses played really good. We'll talk about it. I mean,
I know they did, but it's still Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers.
Well, it's not like they're going against each other in the field. So, but I mean, I kind of agree. I'm probably going to start Chris Godwin in a fantasy league this week potentially. But I'm still debating it. I think I might lean towards you and just stay away from Bucks a little bit until they can figure it out. But who do you got? Who do you got for your automatic start for the week?
Well, I think you got to start David Njoku if you have him at tight end, even if he's your backup, and depending on who your starter is, because he's been targeted a lot over the last 2 weeks.
I feel like
Jacoby Brissett does come from a tight end friendly passing scheme in New England before he was there, before he came to Indy and Cleveland. So
that is true. I mean, we're kind of getting this my bad, David Njoku that we kind of have expected since he was drafted in the first round. Especially that's what you want to see in a good position with tight end. You want to see those targets, because if they're not getting those targets, obviously they're not catching the ball, but you're kind of wondering how it's going to be a week-to-week basis. If they're consistently getting those targets, even if they're not getting the catches, those targets can be a good thing to look for in the long term. That Njoku could be definitely a good start. I've noticed he's been on a lot of waiver pickups the last couple weeks, so hopefully.
It's just been he's getting like 30 to 40% of the targets right now. So.
I mean, obviously, if you have Kelsey,
which is a pretty high amount, so.
Mark Andrews, stash him. Maybe try to find some trade value with this Njoku right now, because his value is really high, and just keep starting him, like Brett says. So my guys right now is Damon Pierce. I just think that I wanted to have him last week. Obviously, he had a good matchup against the Bears. I think this week is another good matchup. We've seen the Jaguars be potentially able to be run on. They're very banged up. Joey Bosa's hurt. Question mark a lot for the Chargers. So I think a guy like Damon Pierce, just breaking tackles. He's an outstanding rookie. He's getting he's getting the load. So I think
Well, it's because their passing game is so bad.
partially, but hey,
No, I mean he's right now a star in the making if he continues on. So
yeah, hopefully he is. I have him in one of my leagues, and I would like for him to stick around. But a sit I have for this week on the other side of this game, Keenan Allen. He is projected to play this week, and coming off a hamstring issue. Chargers had a bad game against Jaguars. There's a lot of injury concerns with the Chargers right now. I'd say kind of like with you with the Bucks, just stay maybe away from everyone on the Chargers, but more importantly, let's see how Keenan Allen's going to do coming back from that hamstring injury. Because the last thing you want being a wide receiver is your hamstring having issues. So just keep an eye on that. Obviously, if you have no one else, start him, but just keep an eye on him.
are the Jags for real?
That is a tough question. I think before I can answer that, we kind of owe the entire AFC North an apology. Last week, we pretty much called them the worst division in the NFL. Bearing so, they looked horrible. We expected a lot out of the Colts. They got blew up by the Jags. Texans are the Texans. We don't.
You mean the AFC South? You said AFC North, but
everyone gets an AFC South.
Yep.
Jaguars, Colts, Texans, Titans. They all
just
looked
because
very
they
bad.
all won in a week doesn't mean they didn't.
But it doesn't necessarily. Yes, they are, for the most part, everyone except the Texans won. But it's the way in which they won that makes me think that we maybe overreacted a little bit. The Colts winning, albeit at home against the Chiefs, but it was a close game. They stuck with it and ended up, winning the game against a very tough Chiefs team. The Jaguars, albeit I talked about it a second ago, the Chargers are really banged up. It's one thing for you to, for the Jaguars to win a close game against the banged up Chargers, but it's another thing to completely blow them out the way they did.
Yeah, it's a tough. I don't know. I can't tell if they're for real yet or not.
I can't either. They're really good. Maybe if you want to sprinkle them, we're going to talk a little bit about betting later, but if you want to sprinkle if they make the playoffs a little bit, just simple yes, just a little bit for now, see what's going to happen. But they could be they right now remind me a little bit of a team like the Bengals last year right now. This team that has a rising first overall pick. They did quite a bit in the offseason to kind of put a lot more on that roster. While I kind of like the Jaguars coach a lot more than the Bengals, but they're just they put a lot of guys around a talented number one overall pick quarterback. Got themselves another number one overall pick on the other side, Trayvon Walker. Devin Lloyd's looking pretty good. Not to mention Josh Allen's already good.
I was gonna say Lloyd's probably one of the top rookies in the league right now. Just the way he's playing.
Is. He's up there for kind of rookie of the week every week. Trayvon Walker has flashed his moments too. For you to blow out the Colts and Chargers back-to-back weeks, you have to be at least pretty good on both sides. It's still early. It's week 3. Next week, we're going to maybe talk a little bit more about pretenders and contenders. But right now, this division looks a lot better than it did a week ago, and that's saying true. Something. Yeah. The Titans even, they looked like they were about to blow it, but they it's the bend don't break mentality that Vrabel has put into that team for a while now. And
yeah.
I am maybe overreacting a little bit, same I did last week. I think this is a okay division for right now. There are still questions. Colts, they had a lot of breaks to win that game. Their pretty much game-winning drive, I would argue, should have happened. There's a lot of just questionable things in that game. I mean, the Chiefs going into halftime not kind of trying to score, but it doesn't matter. They won.
That's true. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm still not super high on the division, but I mean, they're in a lot better state than they were the last time we spoke.
I agree. I wouldn't. I wouldn't say I'm high on them, but I don't think we have the right to call them the worst division in football.
No, I think there's a few contenders for that now, but
there are, especially now with the Saints not doing as good as at least I projected them to do. I know you're kind of high on the Panthers. Panthers are looking not so good either. So the NFC South is maybe one of those teams, even with the Bucks.
Yeah. Could say NFC West. I'm not real high on them either. I think they are better teams, but only two. I'm not high on the Niners. Obviously, Seahawks are the Seahawks right now.
Cardinals aren't looking pretty good either. But hey, the Call of Duty beta's over now. It's the Cardinals, so the Cardinals should be winning here pretty soon. Keep that in mind.
In theory, if you're a betting man.
In theory, but I mean, we're talking a lot about the AFC South and how we maybe overreacted with them. There's another division I feel like we kind of overreacted to. I mean, not just us, just the entire NFL world. The AFC West has not lived up to the hype so far. Would you agree?
But I would agree. But I mean, the Chiefs were due for a bad year. Let's be honest with them.
Are they still going to have a bad year? They still look really good.
I mean, their defense looks better than they have in years, but I guess I assumed the Broncos were going to be better. That was just me. You know what I mean? I assumed they would be better than they are. The Chargers, I think their injuries are killing them.
That is true. Injuries are a hell of a thing for them right now, but it's part of the game, so you can't make that a completely good excuse.
And the Raiders are still the Raiders to me.
But even with the Raiders, I expected more from them.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, they went out. I mean, Devontae Adams hasn't really shown up since week 1. I mean, Hunter Renfro's been kind of hurt, but you bring in these heavy, big pieces. Last week. Yeah, but then cost them the game against.
Yeah, I know,
Arizona.
But that's typical Packer number 1 receiver going to another team.
And it seems like they always go to the Raiders. Jordy Nelson, James Jones, now Devontae Adams. Maybe he'll come back home like James Jones did.
You mean after he gets cut?
I don't think with how much they paid him, they can cut him, especially with what they traded for him. But hey, here's the fun thing about us overreacting for things. It's only week 4. So much more can happen. Look at the Cincinnati Bengals. I think at this point they were 1-2, 2-1. So let's be careful what we say, because a team hot right now, the Eagles, the Dolphins, those the only 2 teams left undefeated. Who knows what can happen? Not talking necessarily injuries, but it's still early. There's a lot of football left. The Cowboys, I mean, I maybe expected the Cowboys to have won and lost what they did so far.
Under Cooper Rush?
But not under Cooper Rush.
I mean, I don't know. I think people are really jumping the gun on that one thing. Oh, he's doing more things than Dak could do. I think it's a little too early for that talk.
I mean, he's undefeated as a starter for the Cowboys.
It doesn't really matter because Dak's paid too much money for you not to start next year.
I agree. They will never get rid of Dak. If anything, Cooper Rush is he's just getting himself a nice big paycheck to another team.
I don't know if it's a big paycheck, but I mean, to us it might be big, but in NFL money it'll be a good paycheck. But
there's a team out there.
It gives him the ability to start to fight for a starting job on another team next year.
And that's what I mean. A big potential top paid backup in the NFL that could be a swinging starter. Kind of similar to
who knows? The way they structure NFL, they might be able to keep him in Dallas. for because they can get rid of Dak in 2 or 3 years. But are they willing to invest in Cooper Rush and spend that extra money on him now? I don't know.
Exactly. I mean, Jerry Jones is a man known for
Well, we know
spending.
Their offensive coordinator is. I just think he would because Cooper Rush is his kind of guy.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. Unless something happens where Cooper Rush goes, maybe not undefeated, but has a really good...
We'll go back to your saying last year, any given Sunday. And it's still early.
Any given Sunday. That is a saying I have forgotten about, and I think I need to say, 20 times an episode now?
Yep.
But I just, let's keep an eye. It's still early.
I'll be honest. I mean, even being a Bears fan, them being 2-1, when I see the stats that we're under 300 yards passing for the season, it's pretty disgusting to me. I don't know how, that makes me not even want to be 2-1.
Yeah, and that brings in the question, how much does winning matter when your quarterback isn't developing? It's tough because
I'm afraid that it's not our quarterback. I'm afraid that it is our quarterback, but I'm afraid that it might be what people have been speculating about him since we decided to get rid of Mitch.
I mean, or maybe the Bears are just
cursed.
The
quarterback.
Cursed. They'll never be allowed to have anything more than a.
So what are you saying? Jay Cutler's going to hold every record in Bears history forever?
Well, he doesn't, luckily.
I know he holds a lot of them, though.
No, but I mean, we still have. To be fair, Sid Luckman still holds the NFL record for most touchdowns in a game. I mean, it's tied with several players, but
because at this point, I would take a healthy young Kyle Orton over Justin Fields right now.
I mean, Kyle Orton is a person that I think has maybe been disrespected a little bit. You
could say that about Rex too. But he was in the NFL a long time.
As a backup.
Yeah, Orton was, I think, disrespected a lot, but
his very last year in the NFL almost led the Bills to the playoffs. And that was not the best Bills team. I mean, that defense
compared to today's standards, no.
Well, no, I mean they've always had a good defense, but they were looking at nothing, and then he comes in and kind of leads them to a pension. Yes, he did end up losing to the Jets in Week 17. I believe even Geno Smith, who is starting again for the Seahawks, had a perfect passer rating in that game to beat them.
We might even be talking about the AFC East being the worst division if they continue on this pace.
The AFC East being the worst division with the Dolphins and Bills. Think about what you just said.
No. But the Dolphins could flip real quick.
That is true.
Not sold them yet. And the Bills just lost their quarterback on defense. And I'm not real high on the Bills right now. They are not I'm not okay. Right now they're still a playoff team. I don't think they're going to go where they did as far as they did last year. Not playing the way they're playing right now. No.
Okay. Well, who would be your team in the AFC right now then?
Off the way they're playing, right now.
Just intuitive.
I'd probably pick Miami.
Okay.
And Miami or Baltimore, and I'm not high in Baltimore, but I have to go off the way teams are playing right now. So.
But let's move on to something else. Game of the weeks. It's a lot of fun games this week. I think I would argue every single primetime game should be a fun game to watch. Not so much for last week, depending on how you like to watch what you watch. But last week, Brett, you started rough 0-3 the first week we did this. Last week, you went 1-2, bringing, your year game of the weeks to 1-5. I also went 1-2 last week, so I'm 3-3 and even 500. But Brett, what 3 games should the people watch, and who do you think's going to win them?
Oh, I think it's got to be Jaguars-Eagles is one.
I agree, mostly just because we're talking about, are the Jags legit? This is a very good game to see what they're about because the Eagles look like one of those hot teams right now.
I'm gonna pick the Eagles in this one only because I have more faith in them than Jacksonville at the moment.
I was gonna go Eagles, but I want to be different. I'm gonna go against you here because that's more fun. What else you got?
I think Dolphins Bengals.
Yeah, that'll be a good game. I kind of went against doing any of the primetime games because people should watch those anyway.
Yeah,
But that should be a fun
and
game.
then I think Vikings Saints should be pretty interesting. I'm not high on the Saints, but it's just one of those games that I think. I don't know. I mean, I guess the Texans Chargers, that doesn't thrill me. Falcons Browns.
So you mentioned Dolphins Bengals. Obviously, the Bengals Thursday Night Football in Cincinnati. They're going to wear their all whites, new helmets. Who do you have winning that game?
I have the Dolphins. I think the Bengals are a Cinderella story from last year. I don't think they've made themselves that much better in the offseason to continue on the pace they were at last year.
They've struggled. They tried answering the offensive line questions, but it doesn't look like they've been answered the right way. And that's kind of the struggle right now is Burrow's either holding the ball too long or whatever it is. They need to figure it out. And if they can figure out that one thing, I think they could be a pretty good team. I mean, obviously they are a good team. We've seen it last year.
That's such a key to everything, though. So
it is. But, I mean, that's not a game I have, but I, too, have the Vikings and Saints. We both think this is a game worth waking up at 7:30 to watch. That is the England-UK game for this first week. I'm excited for it, not only because it is, the first game overseas. It'll be interesting to see how those teams play because that's the fun thing about these international games. Like anything can kind of happen. Keep saying, any given Sunday,
jet lag and other things. Yeah,
but I have I want to see if the Vikings can kind of pull out this win. I'm gonna have the Vikings win it. Saints have been,
I agree.
a lot
the
of
Vikings
questions.
win that game.
Andy Dalton is been taking a lot of the first team snaps from reports I've heard. So it'll be interesting to see a Kirk Cousins Andy Dalton showdown in London.
Could be interesting.
It's also the first NFL game since the Queen has passed. So that's something interesting. At
this point,
there's never been an NFL game played since she was queen.
That's true. I mean, on that note, just talking about, not really talking about the Queen, but with the way the NFL season's going, I might just trust whoever the Simpsons predict as the Super Bowl winner because they did predict the Queen was going to die.
Well, they
predicted so many things.
They've predicted a lot of things. I don't think.
I mean, if they want to give me some Super Bowl picks in the next couple episodes, that'd be great.
That'll be great. Give you a reason
to
watch.
They probably got
Simpsons.
the best. They got the best record for predicting things. I think more than any of these other sportscasters / news analysts of any kind. So
no one predicts stuff like the Simpsons does. I mean, it's amazing. Not only certain things, but like there's the Trump going down the escalator, like trying to be president. There's
so many things. It's one of those. It's probably going to go down as one of life's mysteries here.
I bet by the time it's all said and done, something will come out about how it's all been predicted.
They're not from the future. Let's not even go down that road. But
who knows? If you're telling me if they came out and said they were, would you be surprised?
I wouldn't believe them.
I doubt that. But my last game, for the game of the weeks, I have Bills Ravens. I think this is a tough game. Bills obviously tough game against the Dolphins last week. I think this could be a potential bounce back game for them. Ravens secondary hasn't looked the best. I mean, Patriots, if it wasn't for a potential Mac Jones injury, they could have won that game. I mean, obviously that's a lot of what ifs, but I'm going to go Bills this game. I think this is going to be a fun game whatsoever. I mean, Lamar Jackson right now is on
I got to go opposite of you, and I'm not even a Lamar Jackson fan, but I think the Ravens right now are playing way better football.
Okay, and did you agree with me on the Vikings?
Yep.
That's what I thought. But, all right, that's what we have for the games of the week. Obviously every game, depending on what you're rooting for, whether that's fantasy, whether it's your team, watch what games you want, what games you can. if you're busy or if you're not like me where your Sunday ticket doesn't want to work for an entire Sunday's worth of games, then sometimes you're kind of stuck watching no games. Or if you're trying to bet on some games. And Brett, we both have some bets for the first time since we have started this. We have some bets for people to do. Obviously, be responsible. We're not a gambling, whatever. Whatever legal thing we have to say, whatever it is. Yeah. So, Brett.
I mean, I would probably take the spread on the Miami-Cincy game, to be honest.
For who?
Well, it's for Miami. +4.
It's up to +4 for Miami?
Yeah, I'd probably take that spread.
That's something I could potentially do, but that's not something I have.
I mean, I've been paying attention to it, so it off and on, but yeah, I having Miami as a +4 in that game is odd to me. So
that is odd. I think a lot of that has to do with, questions on if Tua will even play with the injuries he kind of got against Buffalo. I think a lot of it has to do with kind of that. But if healthy Tua plays, and which that Miami defense got to Josh Allen, so if they can get to Josh Allen, there's a chance they're going to get to Joe Burrow.
I mean, yeah.
The +4 is definitely something I would sneak in a little bit, but what else you got?
I mean, I would probably take the spread on Houston and the Chargers too.
That is something I have. I every single week I have bet on the Texans to cover the spread. When I took it, the Texans were 5.5 underdogs. So that's just
5. Well, on what I looked at, it was 5, but that's
it's all different. But they're all pretty close. But obviously, a 5.5 is just there because in case it's an odd score or a exact score. But
I mean, I don't. Yeah, with all the injury questions with the Chargers, it's any given Sunday.
Not to mention, the Texans, even going back last year against the spread, were very good, and they've continued this trend into this year. So they're one of those teams where no matter how much they're projected to lose by, I'm probably going to hit the spread. And for anyone who doesn't understand betting, I think this is something we should probably explain a little bit. So there's spreads. So take this game, Texans Chargers. The Texans are +5.5, which means they're projected to win projected to lose by at least 5.5 points. So if you take the spread for the Texans, that means that you think they will win, or no, I keep saying when I mean lose, that they will lose by at least pretty much less than 5.5 points. Or for Brett, where it's 5 points. That's a little explanation for those who don't bet. But yeah, I think Texans and Lions are kind of those teams right now where if you can get some good, favorable underdog spreads, I would take them.
I mean, you could really run the spread with Green Bay and New England too. Now that Mac Jones is hurt.
Yeah, but that's been moving a lot. Earlier in the week, it was 10.5. It's gone down to 9.5. I don't know how much, if it keeps going lower, I don't know how much I can trust that.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, it's got to be right around where it is for it to be doable.
Exactly. But you have any over-unders for the people before we get out of here?
I mean, I think an over-under of 40, like let's say 48 for Philly and Jacksonville is pretty good. And I'm going to say over.
That Philly defense is pretty good. It'll be interesting to see, but it is. I like that. One I have is, I know you're not a fan of the Bucks right now, but the Chiefs Bucks, with the hurricane that is going on, Hurricane Ian that's going on right now. They're actually looking for this game to be played somewhere else. So you're telling me we get a primetime game on neutral ground. Again, the two teams that are known for being good offensive teams, whether they have been or not this year, they can be. And over a 45.5, I'm going to take that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm expecting the Bucks to bounce back, and the Chiefs are still the Chiefs to an extent. But
I mean, both of
yeah,
these
I
teams are
mean,
looking for bounce back games too. Both of them. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans potentially both
I
being
don't
back.
expect much out of Godwin yet. But
I
I
don't
think
expect
as we
much,
get,
but if he's playing with Mike Evans,
yep,
that's a game where. But if it is for some reason still played in Tampa Bay, I'm immediately taking that under. We saw what the game was like in
I mean the
Chicago.
Bucks defense has been good this year. It's just when their offense is playing like they are, it's can only do so
It
much
has
on
been good,
defense.
and I think against Green Bay last week, while Green Bay only scored 14 points, they were 14 points right off the back. I think that could show something that there is chances, and I mean, I'm never going to doubt that the Chiefs can put up points no matter who they're playing, except the Bucks in the Super Bowl, I guess. But that's besides the point. That's kind of what we got for you today. Some quick bets. If you have any advice for fantasy, maybe even betting for what games, just if you got any sports advice, even if it's not football, hit us up. Social medias are always linked below, no matter where you're watching and wherever you're watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, feedback, put a smiley face, screenshot it, say you're listening to us, shout us out. Just whatever you do, go ahead and do it. That's all we got for you today. Enjoy the football this weekend. If you are in anywhere near the Florida area, South Carolina, that area where Hurricane Ian is kind of hitting or going to hit, please be safe. Do whatever. I mean, hopefully you've either gone out of the area or you're prepared. Just we send our T's and P's for you. So just hope everything goes okay. And with that, have a good weekend, everybody.
Yep, later.
Thanks for listening to Audible Sportscast, your home for all things sports.